Hey, you're busy. You have a lot of things to do. You want to spend time on this. Let me walk you through how to make an executive assistant bot. I keep calling them bots because that's how I think of them. But in apps like Claude or ChatGPT, they have different names. So if you're using ChatGPT, you might find GPTs somewhere in the sidebar here. That's like the bot that you're creating. In Claude, you'll see projects, like that'll be the name for it. And what I want to do is just show you about like a couple minutes of how I built my executive assistant bot. This is a bot that I use for pretty much everything, to start thinking about something, to generate text for something, to summarize something, all the ways that you would normally think to use AI, but also to like thought partner about something, or to organize my day or my week, or to wrestle with a priority, and giving it like context about all the things that I'm doing so they can help me with that. So in front of me, I have some of the conversation that I've had to create that bot. But what I want to do is show you exactly how to do it. And also at the end of this, I'll just give you the instruction set that I came up with. You can use that. You can steal it. You can create your own. You can do whatever you want with it. You can modify it. You can use it as a starting point and customize it for your own thing, whatever you want. I'm just going to share it. It's for free. It's for you. But let me walk you through how to think about it. Most of the time, people are using AI and they're thinking of using AI in this really kind of transaction-based approach of like, here's an email that I wrote. Can you write it in a way that's more polite, more assertive, more something? Like they're just taking something and they're asking for one kind of like output from it. And this is fine. You know, you'll get decent enough answers. But my opinion is like, this is not, this is a really, really basic way to use it. And there's a way for you to get more out of it and still get those kinds of things, but actually get those kinds of things even faster. So what I've done is basically trained my AI tools. In this case, I'm using Claude Sonnet 4.5. I've trained it to sort of know how to work with me. I've trained it to think about how I like to communicate, what my values are, what I'm trying to do with my projects and, in my work, giving it the context to know kind of where I'm headed so that it can help me more effectively, and honestly faster. So let me just walk you through kind of like the first approach at this. So I'm just going to go through and find my first conversation that I had to create an assistant. All I did was say this first sentence, and basically every prompt that you generate, you should start with this first sentence. Take on the role of a blank so that we can blank. Usually what I'll do is I'll say, take on the role of a blank with expertise or specialization in blank. So give them a big picture thing and then a very specific thing to go after. That's going to help them like center their language and also their research and homework in that field. So it's not just going to like reach for anything out there on the internet. In this case, I was like, I want an efficient and helpful assistant. And then I gave it a really specific word, alacrity. Alacrity meaning like a cheerful readiness. So the type of waiter or waitress who has this exact thing where they are really quick and really prompt, but they never make you feel rushed. Like somehow they're really pleasant to interact with, but they're really prompt. That's like the ethos that I want this executive assistant to have. And so that's like literally the word that I use to help explain kind of what I'm looking for. And then I gave it like some instructions and this and that of like where to get information. And so I was like, cool, help me figure out what instructions that I'm going to use. I'm going to take the output that it gives me and create, a project based on that instruction set. And then we can continue to iterate from there. And so I asked it create some instructions, and then it created a core identity, where to go find information, how it wants to communicate, just like some basic outlines of kind of like interaction. And one of the core kind of things that I wanted to make sure was part of this Claude project is that I want it to constantly learn, and I want to constantly be able to tell it, well, this is kind of what I'm thinking, or, now that we've been working together for 3 weeks, I really want this kind of outcome, or like I'm realizing now that the way I interact is actually like this. And so I need you to change, tacts here. And I want it to evolve and constantly evolve based on my priorities and needs. So like, let's make that a core principle. Great. Let it iterate. Very short declarative and then quick interrogative sentence. Dropping that in, letting it generate. So this is a good example of like, I think most people, if you give them this tool, they will try to generate all the instructions themselves. They'll try to come up with all the ideas. They'll think, what is really, truly the perfect way for me to interact with this? Like, I need to tell it everything. And this is not true. If you want to make this a tool that's easy to use, you need to learn to just give it, like the goal is not to give it all the instructions all at once. The goal is to build momentum and iterate and reiterate with it. So instead of trying to think of all the things, ask it to do that work and say, I want you to think about what a great instruction set would look like, because that's out there on the internet. Like Claude as a product is available on Anthropic's website. Anthropic is the AI company that built Claude. So you could just go and learn about how it was made, and based on that, create a great instruction set. How does it work best? Like, we should probably go straight to the horse's mouth and figure out how this thing will work best. So create some great instructions to start this off, right? So we know a little bit. We've given it just a little bit of like, kind of, here's where I want to go. Here's what I want it to do. Here's one of the core kind of features or characteristics that I want it to have. And then I want you to go based on what is best practice for developing Claude instructions, like go implement it in that way. So cool. Now we're already, with just a couple, what is this, like 2 interactions, we're already moving. We already have a version 1 that we can like nitpick, right? So cool. We've got this core identity, key principles, and we can just kind of like scan through this to see what it's saying and what it's doing. System integrations, I've edited a lot of this since I built this. Let's see, privacy and boundaries. I love this. So information handling, everything is confidential. Never reference specifics unless I authorize it. Ask for guidance when you're unsure. That's a key one. One of the things that I always built into all of my bots is like, if you're going to make a statement or a claim, you need to give me the link or the resource to the link or citation to that exact web page, landing page, whatever it is, so I can go and check up on it. Because I don't want you to just make things up. If you see gaps, I want you to tell me there are gaps, not to fill the gaps with something else. So like, that's a core thing that you would want to include in that as part of its like operating protocol. So cool. That's a good first step. And you could take these as is and just start. What I want to do though is show you kind of like where we landed. So that's just like a short iteration. What I want to do is show you exactly what the instructions say now. So with just a couple of iterations, a couple of kind of key like direction, we have an instruction set. And it's basically saying like, I want you to constantly be digging. I want you to constantly be thinking critically. I want you to identify patterns in my own thinking and my own approach. I want you to inquire about priorities and preferences that it may be shifting based on like the landscape of the field, whatever. Yeah, we're always starting with reasonable assumptions and then modifying based on what I'm saying. The reason I've set it up this way is because it's built for forward momentum. What I don't want is to have a bot that's constantly asking questions about every tiny detail and it's like, that's slowing me down. What I want it to do is take the first step, and then I will continue to revise that step or coach it on how to think. Like, that's the pattern that I want to develop with it. So that's the kind of like evolution that I want it to constantly have. And then thinking about like, cool, is that maybe the thing we were just talking about, the priority we just made, the value that we just called out, is that something that should be baked into the operating system of how we operate? Is that something that should become a standard of how we approach everything? What you'll find is like, as you are starting out with this and you're creating your own instruction sets, you're creating your own kind of like AI process, you will find some things are useful, some things are not. Some things were like a good idea, but then like, you actually don't work that way. And like, it's easier to just do it this way. And like those implementation realities are really important to call out and refold back into the operating system of the instructions of what you're doing. Cool. Asking permission to experiment. These are just a few things that it has come up with after a few cycles of iteration. I really like want to focus on these like improvement process, evolution tracking, and constantly like checking itself and our interactions. And then I really love these like kind of high level summaries. Those are really great. Having it generate this kind of stuff as part of the instruction set or even just as part of your interactions is really, really great because it helps recenter you on the overall goal and helps you think about like, is what we're doing right now working? Because I think it's too easy to get sucked into the pattern of like, well, I have to use it like this. And we're so used to software that's like painful to use. We have to click here. We have to learn how to use it. And the idea behind a tool like this is that you are telling it how you operate. You are telling it how it's supposed to work with you. For instance, I do not like it when AI bots will come back to me after I give feedback and they'll be like, "Oh, you're totally right. This is the absolute best way to do it. And you're dead on, right?" Like, I don't love that. Like, I don't like that interaction. One, because it feels like, what's called obsequious. This like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, like this like really agreeable thing. And like agreeable is fine if you're trying to move forward with whatever your vision is, but like it's not best for getting the best quality. So I feel strongly that like in your instructions for any kind of a bot, they need to include this reality of like, listen, you're not a person, you're a computer, you're an AI assistant. You're not an actual person that's going to go through my email and like help me schedule this thing. Like, I want you to leverage what's great about AI. I want you to leverage what's important about it and what you can do best. And then like, we will figure out how to do all the human things, but like, I will provide that input. And like, so your instructions, like you do not respond to me as though I'm right all the time. I may not be. Like, take a reasonable assumption, right? Take reasonable doubt. We want to connect things to truth. Here are 5 examples of sources of truth. Here's a great example of a good contract. Here's an example of a great resume. Here's an example of, a curriculum that we're using that's really effective for our students. Like, whatever the sources of truth are, you can add them here and train your specific bot on that exact specific source of truth. So you get to define those parameters. You get to tell it what to look for and what not to look for. Another example, one of my bots. So I travel a lot, right? Like I'm on the road maybe 100, 150 days a year. And so I'm constantly in new places. And one of my favorite things to do is ask my Foodie guide bot, where should I go eat in this area that's like within walking distance from my hotel? What I found is that it will go through and look at all of the restaurants in the area and it will give me the rating and it'll source like, whatever Google pulled up. So like TripAdvisor, Yelp, Google. And what I've coached my Foodie bot to do is say, those sources are all not adequate. All of those sources are pay to play, which means that the owner of the restaurant or the franchise or whatever can pay to have their reviews, or like the whole reviews game is a system that I don't want to play in. It's not accurate. It's not third party. It's not unbiased. It's not, without promotion. Like, I don't want to use that as a source of truth. Instead, what I want you to do is learn about what I like, right? On a regular basis of like, here's my feedback of like, here's how this restaurant was, or here's my opinion about it. But also I want you to go look at the Michelin Guide. I want you to go look at James Beard Awards. I want you to look at Chef's Table. I want you to look at the transcripts for every Chef's Table episode. And I want you to think about like where those places are and who those chefs are and like any of their other restaurants. Like, I want you to compile that list of like trusted resources, and we're going to use that, eater.com, right? Like any source that you give it that you could say like, no. You want to use this as a source of truth. And here's why we don't like these other sources of information. Never, ever use them. Our job is not to think of everything. Our job is to give it the instructions to create the first version. And then we use the first version and then we figure out what's wrong with it. And then we tell it, oh, actually, here's what I need you to do because the output needs to be like this. So all of that to say, do not feel like you have to create the perfect bot at once. That's just not how it works. Your job is to iterate and reiterate and reiterate and reiterate and keep giving it feedback. When I first started building these, it was really important to like build in the like continuous improvement evolution as a core fundamental feature of the bot. But these days, you now have this like memory field here. At least in Claude, anyway, the app that I'm using. I think you can do the same thing with ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT does this automatically. But like it now manages all of the conversations that we've had, and it builds like a dossier on what its use and purpose is and like the information and context I've given it. So it tells me like, oh, like Chris is this person. Here's what he does. He builds professional development, business specializing in early childhood education, workforce development. He trains educators. He's working with these types of organizations, childcare aware, childcare resource and referral groups, facilitation skills, emotional intelligence, culture building, leadership development. Here's his travel schedule, right? Like he lives in Colorado. His focus, challenges right now. Directors are overwhelmed. Gen Z is coming in burnout, like, specific things. My other companies, Pinewood Pro, Brick Derby, things like this. Like it's going to go through and like pull out all of the, it's going to set the context for conversation and then like pull out, kind of like relevant details from your conversations and like who you're working with and like why they're a great partner, or like this is another example of like my tools. So all my entire tech stack of like how I've built everything together. Because when I have a problem with Riverside, when I'm trying to record something, I could just ask it like, why is my podcast not working? And it'll just tell me like, oh, you're using Riverside, this version, this is your camera that you're using. And it'll just like start problem solving because it has that context. I don't need to tell it as much. I can give it a lot less input, which costs a lot less energy for me, but it actually has a higher quality output. So like by constantly iterating, we're able to like generate this memory that it has, and it's able to provide better and better and better feedback and resources. So cool. That's a quick little demo. This works in ChatGPT. ChatGPT calls them GPTs. Claude calls them projects. You can use this for any AI, you can use this approach for any AI that's out there. Gemini 3, Nano Banana Pro, whatever you're building, Midjourney, like whatever it is, you can use this approach to constantly iterate and create, a bot that's going to do what you need it to do. The way that I've set up this executive assistant is to be like kind of the first line of utility for anything that I'm trying to do. So like, if I need to go research something, if I need to generate text, if I need to create a new bot, like I'm always starting with this executive assistant who's going to help me because it knows how I work. It knows what I need. It knows the context about all my things. I always start from this like launch pad here first. And then I will build out that bot, right? Like I'll say, hey, I need to create an instruction set. Let's give you an example. Smart sourcing assistant. So this is a good example of like me trying to find products out in the universe that like align with my needs and values. For instance, I don't like buying technology that has a private like privacy policy that where like I'm the product and they're selling my data to go do something. So I've set this up so that anything I'm buying, if I'm going to REI and I'm buying a backpack, all the way to like I'm going to buy this software tool, this smart sourcing assistant is designed, and I built it with the executive assistant bot. Yeah, here's a backpack, heart rate monitor, all this random stuff that's in here. I'm just going to pop in the instructions and just show you what it actually says. Craft and quality over speed, timeless design, right? Like it knows my aesthetic. It knows that I want things that are high value. I don't necessarily want the Ferrari, even though it's like a high performing car. I don't want to pay a Ferrari price because I don't need that. Like I want something that's more like the Toyota, the Subaru. Like it knows kind of the ethos of what I want. It knows kind of like the aesthetic that I want it to look like for most things. It knows to look in secondary markets. So I've told it like, I don't don't want to pay full price for things. I want to find something that's a great value. And like, in order for it to be a great value, I need it to be on sale. And so it knows to like help me figure out how to search eBay or like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Like it doesn't always go through these because it won't. Like like Facebook has a login paywall. Claude can't access that because it doesn't have my login for these things, right? It doesn't have my login for eBay or whatever. But what it can do is go look at records and say, oh, this tends to be a thing that is sold on eBay. You will probably have good luck finding it. Try these search terms in order to do that. Open box, condition assessment, like all of those kind of like secondary market factors. Where am I? Like, I love local businesses. Like, let's prioritize those. Like, where do I find them? Right? Like local craft people, that kind of stuff. So you can kind of just get a sense like this is not the first swing. Like I did not build this in one go. I built this and I've been constantly adding to it and editing it over time. But it's helped me based on my actual needs. And you could just see like this is a huge instruction set that tracks kind of like closely to my values and what I want it to do. And you can build this for literally anything, but I always start with an executive assistant. It knows the most about me. It knows the most about how I work. It knows how to be concise. It knows that I'm not trying to make it, pretend to be a person, right? It's like very realist, and it helps. So a couple things to take away from this. Your job is not to create the perfect thing all at once. Your job is to iterate and reiterate. Your job is not to type. One of the best things you can do is talk, don't type. In the desktop app here, there's no dictation tool for that in Claude yet. So I just use my phone most of the time, and I will literally just talk to it. I'm going to give you an example here, actually, of how that works, because we're going to go find, oh, you know what? Let's go executive assistant and we'll go down because, yeah, here we go. So here's a conversation that I had with it early on. Not this one. Let's go to chats. Let's go to, if you just, okay, let's go down to, yeah, here we go. So this is a conversation that I had with it early on when I was training it on how to operate. What I realized was that I wanted to use the executive assistant as a thought partner for managing all my priorities. This is a tough year for me, so I had a lot of things going on and I was juggling too many things at once and dropping stuff, and it was hard and I was like failing at everything. It was like one of these classic things where I'm like doing too many things and sucking at all of them and just trying to make it work. So I was like, great, I'm going to tell you all the things that I've got going on, and then you're going to help me prioritize and make sure that I'm not overwhelmed. I'm going to use this framework that I know that has worked for me in the past, so called sprint planning, right? But like this entire blurb, like I did not type any of this. Look how much text this is. If I was going to try to type this, I would never make it that far, right? I would, just type 2 or 3 sentences, and it would just take too much time to do it. So instead, do not type. Just speak directly to it. It's going to be way more likely that you're going to provide all the context that you want. It's going to be a lot easier for you to just do it instead of trying to type it on your phone or type it in, on your machine, on your desktop. It's so much easier to talk. And by talking, at least for me, I could tell you that it's a lot easier for me to think about the context of like my overarching mission, all the 20 things I have going on, the goals that I want it to do, and then give it like 5 examples of what I need it to do, or giving it examples of like, here's what it's supposed to look like. Speaking to it is a lot easier, and it can read it so quickly that like you don't have to worry about giving it too much. I've spoken to Claude for 8 minutes, and it'll just like take all of it and process immediately, and it'll start pulling out like, okay, here's what I'm hearing should be my core functions, right? This is one of our first iterations together. I gave it that instruction set. We took it from that first iteration. And then I had this conversation about like, well, now here's what I'm realizing. How could we change and update this to be better? Decision authority, time boundaries, like how are we going to set the rules up for engagement? How are we going to communicate? And then I went back to the microphone, dictated, thinking through it, taking my time, letting myself go on a tangent, like all of that stuff is just part of moving forward in momentum without getting stuck in trying to get the sentences correct. Like Claude will pick it up. ChatGPT will understand what you're trying to say, or it will understand that you underwent a thought process that led you to a conclusion. So even if you have to just talk through it, and by the end of the stage, you're like, okay, now I know what I need. I will now explain that clearly, execute on these 2 or 3 things, like generate whatever. So it did that. It went through, it generated this document of like exactly how we're going to operate. We're going to focus on my calendar, high impact stuff, all of that kind of detail. And it was like, great, here I need to also talk about my other company. Like, how are we going to fold that in? How does that work? Priorities, how am I juggling all these things? Like my other teammates, what do they do? How do I delegate properly to them? I want you to help me think about when new tasks come in. Should I be doing this? Should I be offloading this to somebody else? Like, do they have the capability? Do I need to train them on it? Like, all of those things are just like part of the conversation that we walked through to help create like the newest instruction set. So all of this stuff, look at this, so many conversations, just me walking around my house and explaining, here's what I'm thinking, right? Like, okay, we're going to spend this much time researching childcare aware organizations that I'm going to reach out to so that I can figure out how to build content for them. Here's a contact who I know will help me think about what, trainers, coaches, directors are struggling with, right? Like, great. I've done just conversation, and Claude is helping me come up with really clear action and prioritizing it. So this is like the process that I want to like get under the hood and reveal to you, because I feel like most people are just tuning into AI as this thing where you just put in a one question and it's supposed to output all the answers. And like, you can definitely get it to do some of that, but you're going to have a way better experience if you start investing just a little bit of time in this way. And instead of asking yourself to invest that time by typing or building documentation or like doing work that we're probably not going to do if we're being real, just open your microphone and start talking. This is the best way to just start making momentum and have it do all the work. Every time you think to yourself like, oh, I need to come up with a reason I need to come up with a goal, I need to come up with a mission, don't do that. Ask it to do it. Based on what you know about me so far, come up with 5 values that we should base this off of. Or like, based on what you know about me so far, what is going to be the most important thing in the interview process that we have for new candidates? Like, just start with whatever you think it may know and just start iterating. Like, if you just roll with it and build that momentum, you're going to be way better off than if you try to think of the right answer first and then build something. So hopefully this is really, really helpful. If you want more stuff or you want specific stuff, just let me know. I'm going to just give you this instruction set so you can just have it and use it if you want. I'm going to literally just copy this and paste it and give it to you. If you want to steal it, if you want to operate something else with it, whatever, that's for you. So hopefully this was crazy helpful. If you want other tools that I've built, or you want other like tutorials on how to use AI to do some specific thing, like, let's do it. Just let me know. You can respond here, comments, email me. If you want to pick my brain about it, just go to chrisdanilo.com and pick my brain, and we'll make time. And hopefully this was crazy useful. See you later.